more efficient or just, easier in their everyday lives.
I recognize that this isn't what you came to HumanX to do or talk about. Ants.
Well, it's funny though, because it came up in one of the chats earlier how people were they were equating AI to ants.
Welcome to Reality Checks, live at HumanX. I am Brian Reitz, and in this show, we survey 1,000 Americans and then ask experts to weigh in on what they think the Americans said and react to the results. So I'm joined today by Gina King from Supernode Global. She is an investor. She's been in this world for a bit. She knows a lot about what people are building, and is I guess, why am I saying this? What brought you to HumanX?
Hi, everyone. As Brian mentioned, I'm an investor. I'm a partner at Supernode Global. We're an early stage venture capital fund. We invest globally, hence the name. And a lot of what we're investing in right now is AI powered. So I'm at HumanX really to meet founders, to learn from builders, and to meet other investors and compare notes. We invest in companies that are using technology to transform how we live and work, and AI is a huge part of, the tooling, the platforms, also our behaviors. Changing our behaviors, but also augmenting what humans do best. So we're quite excited about this time.
Yeah, and from what I saw, it seems like a lot of the companies are maybe not as much like B2B AI companies, but kind of like what real people are working on. Is that a correct assessment, or am I totally missing it?
Well, we don't invest in AI infrastructure. We invest more in the application layer. So the business model could be B2B, or it could be B2C, or B2B2C. They all have to have a technology core sort of product. But I would say that where we invest is really more in terms of the tangible user experience. Products that are going to help people to be healthier, have more wealth, be more socially connected, be more creative, obviously productive now with a lot of the AI tooling, but also helping people to reimagine what work means in the future, how they can spend time doing things that they love with the people that they want to spend time with. And I think a lot of what we're trying to get out of these type of conversations is the human element. How do we preserve and augment what it means to be human, and make sure that we're not too reliant on the machines to make decisions without some sort of assessment or human in the loop in the process of making those judgments.
Cool. Well, you came to the right place, because we surveyed 1,000 humans about what they think about AI. These are real people. And we have the results. Well, actually, you have the results in your hand in that black folder there. I think we might, in post-production, have a little pop-up of what the results are, but you'll be seeing them, and just to confirm, for the first time here on air. All right, well, let's dig in. So the first question that I want you to guess is, how many Americans in our survey of 1,000 people said they have never used AI?
Well, I think most Americans are using AI, but they don't realize that they're using AI. So I'd say 20 to 25% will claim that they are using AI.
That they are using it.
They are using AI.
Okay. So we did clarify in the question that it was both like Gen AI and agentic AI, but also like voice assistants like Siri.
Okay.
Does that change the answer?
If that was included as examples, then I would probably say 65, 70%.
Okay. So what I'll ask you now to do is open up the folder and just take out the first one, the first page there. Try not to look at the other pages, because then you'll know the answers.
So the answer options were really about their habit.
Yeah, it's how frequently they use it.
How frequently?
There's a big number there that I think is like 19%. So those are the people who said I've never used it. So it was closer to the second guess, but that's because you knew the question better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the adoption curve is still, I guess it depends on how people are associating AI. Is it passive or active? And with voice assistants, for example, it's already integrated into their everyday life. So I can see how, if they understand it is AI, that awareness will guide them to think that that's trustworthy and it's just a natural part of their life. If someone is using ChatGPT or Claude or some of the other platforms where it's very prompt-based, I think that's a smaller population of people overall who are probably engaging more with it for a high purpose or high intent sort of activity.
As opposed to what's the weather today?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the conversational AI part of our lives is really already permeated. I think people are sort of used to interacting with digital, with devices and with bots. Even customer service is AI powered. Often very frustrating, I think, for consumers. But
zero, zero, zero,
yeah,
zero.
exactly. Agent, representative. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess thinking about the integration of voice into people's lives, I can now understand why there was such a high percentage.
Yeah, I was surprised. I assumed that there are still people out there who weren't using it, but it seems like it's here. I mean, we know it's here, but it's definitely here at HumanX, but...
well, we're kind of in a bubble here, I think, at HumanX.
Yeah, so that was, the idea behind the show is, we want to ask people who might be in a bubble if they, if they are or not, and I think everyone seems to recognize it, as opposed to sometimes in other situations they don't. Like, I came into this thinking like, just casual conversations that people might not be aware of that, but I think people are very, very aware of it. Okay, so the next question, you mentioned that it does go into frequency, so that we ask people how often they use it. We just talked about never. On the other side of it, one of the answers was using it daily. So the next question is, which generation between Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and Baby Boomer says that they use it, or is most likely to say they use it daily?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is Gen Z, because that generation is more tech native. They're more experimental. They use devices, for almost every aspect of their life. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, millennials are also more engaged at work. And so with AI being such a big part of companies' mandates, I don't know. I think the survey probably skews towards Gen Z, but I wonder if there's like an upper element of Gen Z, like the cusp of Gen Z to young millennial, that would be the most active.
Like the skews young, but also is working.
Exactly.
Well, if you want to pull out the next sheet, and because you had such a good explanation, we know you're not cheating. It was millennials.
And actually not a big margin of difference, only 5%.
Yeah, and then baby boomers, the least likely to use it daily.
Oh, for sure.
Which, not as young, not as likely to be working.
But also more risk averse, right? And I think just relying on digital assistance or interacting with technology in general is probably less comfortable for them.
But potentially, more usage of, if you have a health reason that you can't do something.
For sure. I mean, the aging population is the fastest growing population globally. And more, there's new products that are coming to market using AI to help elderly people age at home, which is the preference. So we're quite excited to see, more products come to market that will help all generations.
The next question, I believe, was about agentic AI. So we asked people how much they would authorize an AI agent to spend. The answer choices were, I would use an AI agent, but I wouldn't authorize anything without final approval. $0 to $25, And then there were a few other options, but we kind of classified it as 25 plus. And then there was another subset that was like, I'm never going to use an AI agent. So the question for you is, how many Americans say they would never use an AI agent to shop?
But was there a value associated, so $0 to $25 and then
yeah, so it was like, I will never use an AI agent to shop. I would use an AI agent to shop, but I wouldn't authorize anything. I would authorize 0 to 25, it can just go off and do it. I would authorize 25 plus, it can go off and do it.
And the question is, what percentage do I think would never use an agent?
They're just like, I'm never going to authorize anything for an AI agent to shop.
I would say, I don't know, 70%?
So 70%. So you're thinking most people are skeptical of this.
I guess it depends if... So there is an option to have a human in the loop to say, yes, I agree, like I approve this transaction.
Yeah, like they bought this and then I have to click yes.
So they put it in the cart. They haven't actually bought it yet. They
Correct.
put it in the cart.
Yeah, I guess that's really what it is.
Okay. Well, then I think it more, I don't know, maybe 20% wouldn't.
Okay. So between 20 and 70%. Can't be wrong with that answer.
If the human has the final say, I think more and more people would trust the agent because ultimately there's low risk, right? And $25 is not a high stakes purchase for most people on average. So I would say, if the agent is recommending a product or you instructed the agent to find the product, put it in your shopping cart, and then you have to go and hit pay, there's really low risk to that.
When you put it like that, I think I was like, I'm never going to use an AI agent. But when you say it like that, I'm like, I think I need an AI agent to do my shopping cart for me. Well, if you want to pull out the results.
Okay, so never was 56%. So I was closer the first time.
Yeah, you were. I kind of tricked you. Because if you're right about everything, so if you're right about everything, that's not exciting. But you still look smart.
Well, I was trying to reason with the I guess, thinking that a user would have of how much trust do they have to put into the agent, right? I think it's one thing if you're asking the agent to actually do the full transaction, but if the person actually then, it's just time savings, right? If the agent is able to do the shopping, the discovery, and the selection, and then if I can go in and say, I want this, but not that, or yes, pay for it, then yeah.
Why not? Yeah, makes sense. So we had like 8 different things, like what, and we asked people, what do you use AI for? And we only asked people who use AI, because obviously the answer would be I don't if they didn't. And the top reason anyone chose was to summarize long form content. That doesn't mean they use it. That's what they use it for the most, but the most people use it. Anyway, I'm talking too much. The question for you is, did more people select making a recipe or getting a medical diagnosis?
Recipe. I would say because, well, okay, let me take a step back. You qualified it by saying these are active AI users.
Yes.
Who are using AI on a
anyone
daily
who's
basis.
used it. So if anyone who said I use it, daily, weekly,
okay,
rarely, anyone who's ever used it, what they use it for.
Okay. So I'm going to have a caveat. So I would first say recipes for the average person because, again, it's like there's low risk of a failed diagnosis. It's not a high stakes scenario. You can sort of play around with it. On the other hand, before AI, everyone was using Dr. Google, right? WebMD, just trying to self-diagnose based on your conditions, your symptoms. And so that behavior already exists. I can see that now naturally translating to AI. And now you can have it ingest your test results, for example, any sort of doctor commentary that you have access to. And it's probably going to be more interesting or intriguing to the average user to see, maybe even to get a second opinion using AI. I think if it's an active AI user, probably medical diagnosis. If if it's the average American, recipes.
Okay. Every American, not every American, most Americans eat, I would say, and a lot of them cook. Everyone has medical conditions. You eat more than you have medical conditions, hopefully. So it could be a toss-up.
Oh, it's actually quite split.
It's pretty even, but there's one that's more.
Yeah, the recipes, 19%. 16% for medical. I mean, I can understand, yes, the average American, I think, because trust is a real issue with AI, right? We're not quite there yet in terms of fully being able to trust AI to tell us accurately what the right answer is. I think we can trust AI for recommendations, for like what books to read, what movies to watch, what sort of places to go to on a trip. But we're not quite there yet in terms of giving it full autonomy of really being able to, in this case, diagnose, your medical situation. It can give you, I think it's there right now where it can give you enough sort of signals of, okay, it could be this, it could be that. You should ask your doctor about this. Things that you may not have thought of on your own, but I don't believe we're quite there in terms of replacing doctors.
But and that's what the American public seem to think too.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next question is about large language models, LLMs. A lot of Americans use them. Do they know what LLM stands for?
I doubt most Americans know what it stands for. I mean, it's similar to other technologies. You don't really need to know the meaning behind the sort of like the pipes. I think most Americans just want to know that it works and how to use it. Maybe the most active AI users are more inclined to know because they're probably more inclined to also just dig into what it is that they're engaging with and understand it better. But I would say the majority wouldn't know.
Okay, so what percentage would you say knows?
Knows?
Yeah.
Again, this is general, not active AI users.
Correct. And then we do have a daily AI users after.
Okay.
So the first one is general public. And I would say I don't want you to second guess yourself. I know I've been a little sneaky over here. You're right that most people don't know it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the percentage of people who don't know it, I'd say is like 70%.
Okay. So if you want to open up your folder, should be a pie chart.
Okay. Make sure I only got
Usually
one
we
of
do
these.
this digital only, so we don't have to have the old analog paper.
So generative AI.
We're live at HumanX.
34%. No. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you're exactly right for the most part. Yeah.
Cool.
Why do you think you? I mean, you kind of said why you thought that, but
Yeah.
what do you feel validated? Why did you have that opinion?
Well, I just don't think people are incentivized to really do the homework to understand. In general, I mean, even with the cloud, for instance, I don't know that people really know what that means. Like, they just know that there's a lot of data, that they have software somehow works. But it's not like, I don't know, the average consumer, I think, really focuses more on the experience and does it work or not, does it not work, and less about the mechanics. And it's always been that way with tech.
Well, and then the next one, you kind of said this already, is that it might be different with regular users. So among that daily AI user segment we talked about earlier, how do you think that this this pie chart shifts?
I would flip it. I think probably like 75-80% would know if they're a daily active user of AI.
You would hope so.
Yeah. Is it not the case?
It's not.
Okay. Well, I'm giving people more credit. Is it time to reveal?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. 41%. Wow. That's disappointing.
I don't know. A lot of not sure's, so, didn't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I guess it means at the end of the day, even if you use something quite a lot, you don't really care about how it's made. It's more of,
It's like
does it work?
hot dogs.
Yeah. You just know there's a bunch of things that are mashed up.
Yeah,
that
something
maybe-
in there, and people who eat them, myself included, but I know a lot of people don't, because meat's, that's a whole other survey.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to know
mean,
what's in it.
It kind of makes sense because in general people have such low attention spans, right? And
But we hope that they're still watching. This is a nice video.
yes, I hope so.
Learning, and we've got some more coming too. We gave 5 members of the animal kingdom, effectively the animal kingdom, we asked Americans to rank them based off of what is the most like AI and the least like AI. So the options were llamas, spiders, bees, ants, and fireflies. So from those 5 seemingly unrelated specimens, what do you think Americans thought was the most like AI?
Ants.
Quick answer. Why?
Because they're known to be, their behavior is collective. There are many different units, usually of ants, that work together, but then they end up sort of like producing complex, complex sort of figures or like dwellings for them. It's the behavior of the value is in the collective, and there's collective intelligence, how they work together. You could say the same for bees, I suppose. Ants are not autonomous. I guess that's kind of why I would say it would fit the AI.
I don't know enough about ants to contest that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think about llamas. I don't.
Yeah, we threw that in there because it was just to make sure that people weren't just like randomly filling it out, and llamas was 5th place.
Okay.
It also is like, it sounds like LLM, and there's a, I think
Well, the
there's
meta.
yeah.
But I don't know that people they know about that either. Most people, right?
Yeah, so llama was 5th.
Spiders, they build webs. I guess there's patterns you can draw on, like the pattern recognition. Maybe similar, like fireflies are. Yeah, I'm not really sure. They're visual. You can maybe spot the way they move. You can maybe have an analogy to nodes, and I don't know. The other ones don't really make much sense to me, but ants do.
All right, well, that makes sense. And do you think that's what other Americans were thinking when they filled out the survey too?
I mean, the thing is, I don't know that most Americans understand what AI means, but they experience it as a way to help hopefully improve, like make their lives more efficient or just, easier in their everyday lives.
I recognize that this isn't what you came to HumanX to do or talk about. Ants.
Well, it's funny though, because it came up in one of the chats earlier how people were they were equating AI to ants, just in how they were thinking about it. There's just a lot of with AI, you need a lot of data, right? You need large data sets to train these models. There's a lot of collectives working together to generate the outputs that we're all seeking, right? And so I would say, if someone really thought about it, they would say ants, but that would have to assume that they actually understand what AI is. And back to the earlier question of, do they know what LLM stands for? I don't know that that's actually like it's not obvious in terms of that connectivity, right? So
All right, so ants or bees?
answered, yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to pull out the last thing here,
Bees. Okay.
and ants and bees were 1 and 2, or bees and ants, I guess,
Yeah.
and like almost identical. So
Okay.
that was right.
Okay. Well, it makes sense because bees always are all together, right? In their the honeycomb, they're all kind of feeding together. So it's another like collective.
Yeah, it's
visual-
like AI works because it pulls in all of this information, similar
Yeah.
to a single ant maybe you're not afraid of, but millions of ants, like whoa, that's a powerful group. Like you see the ants will like lift heavy things together. So
Well, they're always building something. That's how I was thinking about it.
or stealing your crumbs.
But putting all the crumbs together to create something.
That's true. Yeah, see, it's the perspective. I'm thinking they're stealing my crumbs, and I should be thinking they are creators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a purpose to why they took your crumb.
And if anything, I should be enabling creators like the AI economy is.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining today.
Welcome.
I really appreciated your reasoning throughout. Is there anything while you're here for the people who are left? Where could I don't know if you want to be found, if you don't want to be bothered with pitches, but what is there a closing thought that you have?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking to meet really incredible founders, builders who are really conscientious about the impact of AI and technology on our lives. So if you're building a startup in the spaces that we invest in, primarily we look at, as I mentioned earlier, how we live and work. So health, financial inclusion, social connectivity, and also how AI is disrupting, sort of new ways that people are earning, not just how they're productive, but also creative, and new ways that people can find purpose in their lives and live their lives to the fullest.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining, and have a good rest of your conference.
Thank you. Same to you, Brian.
Thanks.